It is Saturday again. It is that time of the week again. Time for a podcast, time for the Wingy. And this is your episode for January the 18th, 2025. Hopefully you guys are having a great weekend and a great Saturday so far. I am still shaking off the remnants of COVID. I cannot shake this damn thing. It's been a week now. So I still feel a little bit congested in my head. So I apologize if I come across nasally or anything like that as we go through the podcast today. Still trying to shake off my illness, but I'm back to work now and all of that. I'm just trying to shake off the remnants. I feel like I'm at like 78%, something like that. So I'm getting there, but we're here today for a pretty fun podcast. Lots of stuff to talk about today. We have some interesting news and drama going on in the wrestling world involving Corey Graves. We have a lot of good, just random news tidbits and results coming out of AEW and WWE. We have Saturday night's main event coming up 1 week from tonight, and we have the Royal Rumble coming up, I think, 2 weeks from tonight. So a lot going on. We got AEW Grand Slam on the horizon. We're going to talk a lot about that and how mismanaged that seems to be. We've got Revolution coming up, and WrestleMania season is basically upon us. So it should be a busy few months here on the channel, that's for sure, with lots of stuff to talk about. So today, we're going to definitely touch on that Corey Graves stuff. We're going to talk about the WWE and TNA partnership basically being ratified or certified or finalized or officialized or whatever you want to call it. It's been ongoing for quite some time, but for them to actually put that in black and white, pen to paper, and make it official is wild. So we'll talk about the WWE and TNA romance that is brewing. We're going to talk about Christopher Daniels calling it a career tonight on Collision in just a couple of hours. We've got some random AEW sightings and signings. We will talk about AEW Grand Slam. We'll talk about Penta's debut on Raw this week. We're going to talk about yet another Hulk Hogan lie that kind of blew up on me, as I've got a tweet going viral as we speak right now. We'll talk a little bit about the Hulkster later on. Also, we will touch on last night's SmackDown, which was here in San Diego. I did not go to the show, but it was headlined by a tremendous main event, Tiffany Stratton and Bayley. And also we had a pretty good Kevin Owens and Rey Mysterio match last night as well. We're going to touch on Dynamite. We were here to watch Dynamite together on Wednesday, so we're not going to review the whole show or anything, but I want to talk a little bit about Kenny Omega, Powerhouse Hobbs, the Women's Casino Gauntlet, and AEW Grand Slam coming up in a few weeks, I believe on the 15th of February in Australia, which is now going to be a TV special on TNT the same weekend as the All-Star Game. It's messy. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. We're also going to run down the Saturday night's main event card and what we're going to see on Collision tonight. So that's kind of, and we're also going to talk about TNA Genesis, which is tomorrow, headlined by two pretty big matches. So that's going to kind of be on the menu in terms of topics that we're going to discuss today. I also want to let you guys know what to expect from us this weekend. Tomorrow, we're changing things up. I told you guys last week that it was brought to my attention that TNA's YouTube channel has a bunch of pay-per-views in full. So I put up a YouTube post, and I asked you guys to recommend some pay-per-views that are available over there, and TNA Genesis 2006, which I believe was Kurt Angle's first match in the company against Samoa Joe, correct? That is the one that got suggested a couple of times. Barry, I think you brought that one up. So I booked it. It's set for tomorrow. We're going to be watching TNA Genesis 2006, except instead of following along on Peacock, we're going to be following along on YouTube. This is ironically going to be going head-to-head with the current year's TNA Genesis, which I believe is tomorrow night, correct? And we're going to be going head-to-head with Baltimore and Buffalo. So this is going to be a real good channel tester here. We're going to be watching a TNA pay-per-view head-to-head with another ongoing current wrestling pay-per-view and a major NFL playoff football game. I'm curious to see how many people show up here tomorrow night for the watch-along. So we'll have Genesis 06 going on here. I'll have the football game here, and then I'll rely on you guys in the chat to keep us updated on what's going on with this year's current TNA Genesis. Because even though I'm thrilled for them that they're partnering up with WWE, still to this day, I don't really watch them much. So I didn't see the point in really us watching 2025's Genesis. We're going to watch one from 19 years earlier. And when I peeked at the card at Wikipedia, it looked pretty good. So we're going to be watching TNA Genesis tomorrow night. 1 week from tomorrow, the plan, although it's tentative, the plan is for us to watch Royal Rumble 2004. However, that is Championship Sunday, and I'm not sure how that's going to shake out yet. I'm probably going to be watching the Lions game, assuming they beat the Commanders later on today. So I guess if Lions lose, then we'll just do it. I won't care. But if they win, I might be doing something next week. So I didn't post a link for next week's watch along yet because I'm not quite sure what's going to be happening next Sunday. So just keep that in mind. But Royal Rumble 2004 is the plan if we can get it done next week or whatever. And then after that is Royal Rumble this year, and we'll be doing a full watch along for that. Also, 1 week from tonight, Saturday night's main event. As of right now, I don't think I'm going to be home. I've got work obligations, so we'll probably be up here for a Winged Eagle like normal, and we'll preview the show, but I won't be here to watch it with you guys. However, for the Royal Rumble, we absolutely will be here to be doing a watch along for that. So just keep that stuff in mind for the next couple of days and weeks on the channel for what we're going to be doing and not doing in terms of watch alongs. And WrestleMania season is now upon us, and I've got a lot of fun things planned for that on the channel as well, including 40 Shorts and 40 Nights that starts March 10th right here on the channel. And if you look at the date and you count the amount of days, when it starts, when it ends, 40 shorts and 40 days, you can probably guess what the subject matter on that is going to be. That's going to be one of the things we have planned for WrestleMania season this year. So that's pretty much it for the schedule. I do have to say some shout outs and say some hellos real quick. And then we're going to dive into this Corey Graves news because I find it very interesting what's going on there, even though we don't have a ton of answers. We've got our suspicions, that's for sure. I would like to say hello to our friends Nicola, Mohammed. We got Mike Rouse, Tatanani, Red Raven Rucker is here. Zach Palgett, Damian Drain, it's me. Good Mike Milf commentaries. All right. William Cullen is here as well. We got Jay Lambo, Garrett Osborne, Mike Games version 1. Good to see Isaac up in here as well. Sonic Plays, David Brown, Nick Musser. Good to see you. We've got Killicam 0714. I'm sorry, 0714. I said that right. And Ryan Adams in here again, dropping a very generous, awesome, kick-ass, whopping $50 into the chat. Thank you so much for that, Ryan. Whoever in AEW decided to do Grand Slam the same day as the NBA All-Star Weekend and NXT Vengeance Day made a mistake. Plus, now the rumor is that it will air after the All-Star events, which would likely be really late. Poor decision-making all around. That's one aspect I didn't think about the NXT Vengeance Day. It was messy enough just with what they got going on. I forgot that Vengeance Day is also that same day. And when we're going to talk about it in a minute, but when Grand Slam airs, it's going to be airing on like a 20-hour tape delay as well, because it's actually going to begin. I live in California, so Grand Slam is going to be taping around 11:30 p.m. on the 14th for me. That's the time that's going to be where I live when they start taping Grand Slam. And then it's not going to air until like late the following night after all that All-Star shit wraps up. And it's just a mess, especially since it's going to be one of the bigger crowds AEW draws this year. I think there's a 13,000 capacity in this building. So they're probably going to do about 9 or 10 for the show. And it's not going to get a lot of eyeballs on it, and that sucks. So I kind of hope Toni Storm doesn't win the title from Mariah May. Good to see Ben Espinoza. Yes, Bob Uecker is in my notes. We will be talking about him. We also have Ram K in the house, James Rosano, Doug Unfunny, Zane G. Anybody else chiming in? Good to see you guys today. Thank you for being here, and happy weekend and happy wingy day. Let's start with Corey Graves. So, Corey Graves, this situation is weird. It was pretty obvious a couple of weeks ago at NXT New Year's Evil when Corey Graves was there doing commentary that he did not look happy. When they opened up the show with Vic Joseph and Booker T and Corey, they're welcoming the audience to the show, and Corey Graves has this scowl on his face, or just this unbelievably disappointed look on his face. Now, if you listen to the commentary for the show, Corey was fine. Seemed like he was energetic. He wasn't being a complete asshole out there. It was mostly on his face. So he still stayed professional during the course of the show, from what I could tell, even though I didn't watch the whole thing. But from the bits of Corey that I listened to, he seemed like he was doing his job just fine, just not happy to be there. So fans were speculating about that already before Corey Graves sent out the tweet that I'm about to mention. So prior to this, fans were already kind of sniffing out that, oh man, did they move Corey Graves to NXT? Because now Pat McAfee is back in WWE, so he's going to be calling Raw with Michael Cole. Everyone assumed Graves would go to SmackDown with Joe Tessitore, but Barrett is there. So they thought there would be a 3-man booth, but there wasn't. It was just Tessitore and just Barrett, and they are now sending Corey to NXT. Most fans believe this is because Pat McAfee is back. Corey will do NXT duty. When McAfee leaves in August to go back to football season, Corey Graves will be back. But he does not seem too happy about this. And a couple of days ago, he tweeted, then deleted the following tweet, and I quote, "Imagine chasing your dream, then being told, not deciding, that you're no longer physically able to pursue your dream. Then you dedicate your life to something dream adjacent and being pretty fucking awesome at it. And then when it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, being told you're not famous enough for your own job, just in case you're wondering where I've been." So that answered the questions that I had last Saturday. I think it was last week on the podcast, I mentioned Graves being down to NXT and wondering if there are some issues there, and then he sends out that tweet. Well, that answers that. Obviously, he's pissed about this. Then the tweet got deleted, and that led fans to speculate, how upset Corey Graves is, and he seems to be really, really bothered by this, obviously. So Fightful Select and Meltzer had a little bit of updates on this week. Here's what Fightful Select had to say, I think, 2 days ago. To be clear, Fightful Select is not confirmed if this is a work or a shoot, but those close to Corey claim it's real. Graves posted a tweet on January 13th laying out his history, being medically sidelined from a wrestling career, blah, 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 and claiming he wasn't famous enough to retain the spot. Shortly after, PW Insider claimed that Graves was seen at TSA leaving the Orlando area and was not going to be on NXT. Fightful can't confirm that info, but did learn a lot more. So this was before NXT this week, and when it was believed that Corey wasn't going to be on the show, and I don't believe he was, right? One WWE source that we spoke to last week pointed to WWE's commentary teams consistently shuffling and Michael Cole and Graves being the constants. That source, a WWE higher-up, said at the time they'd be shocked if Graves wasn't back on Raw or SmackDown by the spring. Previously, Graves had gained heavy praise in WWE for being so flexible with his role and schedule. Fightful Select's Corey Brennan asked about Corey Graves in NXT this week and was claimed to by multiple sources that Graves was legitimately frustrated with being moved to NXT. That seemed obvious. When asking amongst both talent and production sources in NXT, we did not hear from anyone who was aware of Graves' initial move to the brand, with many being surprised to see him at New Year's Evil on January 7th, with one source expressing they believed he was on the call due to being in town for the show. Meltzer this week on Wrestling Observer Radio said this, and I quote, "At the time, I was told the Raw announced team in January would be Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, and the SmackDown team would be Graves and Tessitore. So then, I'm going to say maybe a couple of weeks ago, I just kind of asked, and the answer was to be determined. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago when Corey Graves got the word that Wade Barrett was going to replace him on that show, and he wasn't happy. I don't know if he got the word he was going to start in January in NXT. I don't know the situation there. I just know that when he found out he wasn't going to be on SmackDown, as he presumed he would be, he was genuinely unhappy. Now, why would you go on Twitter and do all of this? I can't answer that question. There's people there who think he was trying to get fired, and that's why he did it. If he was trying to get fired, they're probably not going to fire him. So much to discuss here. Now, Corey Graves, you can look at this on so many different sides. On one side, you can totally understand Corey Graves' complaint here. He's been working his ass off and doing a great job. He fell ass backwards into this opportunity when it was determined that he couldn't wrestle anymore. Turned out to be great at it. Blossomed into one of WWE's top play-by-play guys and color guys when needed. He's called a lot of WrestleManias. He's been front and center for many, many WWE big shows, and he's in this role. And so once you're in that role and you're coasting and you're moving and you're doing a good job, and fans are, you become synonymous with, calling WWE matches, you probably feel from your perspective that your job is pretty secure and pretty safe. And he would be right to think that. But at the same time, you have to understand, in being a commentator or an announcer is harder than being a wrestler. If you're not big enough, you don't have enough size to be a wrestler, oh, maybe I'll just try to get an announcing. Good luck. There are like 5 spots in mainstream wrestling available. Unlike wrestling where there's hundreds of roster spots. And so being an announcer is much harder. So your spot isn't going to be guaranteed, and sooner or later, you might be replaced or they might move you around. They did this shit to Jim Ross too. They fucked with him constantly. And same thing with Michael Cole, especially with the drafts moving people around. There's been disappointments before. So from Corey's perspective, looking at it from his perspective, somebody that is proud of his work, works hard at what he does, and takes his job seriously, he probably does feel like he's being treated unfairly. Absolutely. But at the same time, wrestling talent in any capacity, taking a back seat to celebrities is as old as WrestleMania, because that's when it started. And once WrestleMania started and the sea of celebrities, and WWE especially, bringing in so many celebrities throughout the years. Think about, we just watched Royal Rumble 2001 last week. Drew Carey took away a Rumble opportunity from someone. From D'Lo. D'Lo didn't go on Twitter and freak out. Well, there was no Twitter back then. He didn't go on there's no MySpace either. I don't know what he went on. He didn't hold up a sign in the crowd and say, I'm pissed. So wrestlers taking a backseat to celebrities is nothing new. WWE has always put celebrities before talent and always let the talent know that you are number two. And Pat McAfee is a celebrity. He has a wide reach. He extends across into the sporting world where so many people know who he is. I'm kind of over Pat McAfee. I liked him when he came in and stuff, but he's way over the top for me sometimes on commentary. And I would probably prefer Corey Graves over McAfee, but I understand why McAfee is there. And they're bringing him in because he's Pat McAfee and he's got a worldwide following. And I'm sorry, Corey Graves, you don't have that same following. You don't have an ESPN show or wherever that shit that McAfee's podcast airs, wherever it airs. You don't have that mainstream following and presence like McAfee does. So if they're asking Corey to take a temporary break from the main roster to make room for McAfee, will bring you back. Corey can be frustrated about that, but wanting to leave and get fired over this, that's pretty amazing. Basically, Corey's issue here is that his awesome job isn't awesome enough. And so that's maybe where I can kind of see the other side of it. Like, I understand Corey's frustrations, but if he's really, and again, this is Meltzer, so we don't know for sure. If he's really legitimately trying to get fired over this, for what? To go to AEW and then take one of their jobs? Then they're going to be in the same situation you are. If Corey Graves goes to AEW, they might bump Excalibur just to one show or take him off Dynamite completely. Somebody is going to lose a spot over there. So Graves is going to be so butthurt about this, knowing that he probably has a job in WWE for many years to come. He will be back on the main roster. It might be not until August, or it might be earlier, like the spring. He might call WrestleMania. We don't even know yet. Maybe they told him he's going to be in NXT permanently for 9 months, and that's why he's trying to get fired. Maybe. I question whether or not he's really trying to get fired, but you have to wonder, somebody like him who has always maintained a level of professionalism, for him to tweet that, there must have been a reason why he did it, to get the company's attention, to get somebody to text him or to call him so he can have a conversation with Triple H. Might not be the best way to go about that. All that's going to do is piss the company off. Dude, don't air your dirty laundry in front of the fans. Don't do that. And so if Graves really does want to leave, well, hey, maybe I'll just go to AEW and I'll be the man there. Do you think WWE is going to let you go when they know you're trying to get fired? Especially when they know what you're going to do. They're going to go right to AEW. Now, that might not matter for them. They let Samantha Irvin go, no big deal. Many years ago, Jerry Lawler walked right out the door. WCW was barely hanging on, but they were still in business. And a lot of fans thought he would go to WCW, and WWE had to think that too, but they let him go anyway. So Corey Graves leaving WWE isn't going to do anything to harm the company in any way, but I feel that's a little silly to want to be fired to go to AEW over this, or just to be gone in general. We don't really know if that's the case or not. I just hope that peace can be made here, because I was always really impressed with the way Corey transitioned from the ring into an announcer. Thought he did really good. Isn't my favorite, wrestling announcer of all time, but I never disliked Corey. Still don't. And hope that it all gets worked out really in the end. I think it's best for him just to stay where he is. WWE's on top of the world right now. You're a top play-by-play man or announcer in the top wrestling company in the world. Why would you, want to leave that? But, then again, there's a lot of big personalities from WWE that went to AEW. Renee Paquette is a big one. Jim Ross. And even Shivani is there. So if you add Graves into the mix, Graves and, and Excalibur can kind of battle for who's the best, might be kind of fun. And maybe that's what Corey's intent is. I just don't think, and again, I don't know anything about his contract status either. So I feel like if he's got some time left on his deal, then he might try to get fired. But if he only has a year left, then you might want to wait it out and leave the right way. We just don't know. But it sounds like he was frustrated. Who knows if it was a drunk tweet or something like that, and then he deleted it or thought that maybe that was not a good idea, or WWE demanded that he take it down. Who knows? But I'm surprised that Corey Graves is surprised that he's being asked to take a backseat to celebrities. Everybody takes a backseat to a celebrity in WWE. Everybody, all the time, every time. Nothing new. Now, one way that this could be okay is if it's like a way to set up a match. We have heard in recent months that Corey Graves might be able to make an in-ring return. And him and Pat McAfee would be a natural match. Now, booking that match for WrestleMania is insane. Absolutely not. That match should not be at WrestleMania. There are going to be some big-time stars who are going to miss WrestleMania. Last year, even with the 2 nights, I think we only had 12 matches. AEW's ran cards that long on one night before. So even with the 2 nights, there's not going to be room to stick Pat McAfee and Corey Graves in a wrestling match unless it's some sort of impromptu thing, impromptu brawl, fun segment for WrestleMania where Corey comes down and attacks Pat and they brawl in the ring, impromptu match, ring the bell, something like that. Could be totally fun, but booking that on the marquee, building towards it on TV, no, not for WrestleMania. So if Corey Graves shows up on Raw and chokes McAfee from behind and pulls him over the barricade and starts beating the shit out of him, then yeah, we can maybe do a match at Elimination Chamber or at the Royal Rumble or another Saturday Night's Main Event or Crown Jewel or something like that if they wanted to. But I don't feel like it's a work in that way. And incidentally, it should be noted here that Pat McAfee is going to be missing this Monday's Raw in Dallas. So we'll see if Corey is on the show. Wouldn't that be funny? Corey sends out this tweet and then Triple H calls him like, "Hey, you idiot. I was literally about to call you and have you be on Raw on Dallas because Graves is good, McAfee's gone. And then I thought while you were there, we'd discuss your future." Get him to Raw. He can replace McAfee while he's there. They can smooth it all out. Go to NXT for a bit. We'll factor you into WrestleMania. We'll bring you in for WrestleMania. You and Michael Cole and maybe McAfee, all 3 of you will call it. We'll work something out, okay? Maybe you'll call night 1, night 2. Work something out with him. I'm hoping that happened, and I'm hoping that we see Graves on Monday night. And it's really interesting timing with McAfee missing Raw, or the reports are that he's going to miss Raw because Monday night is the National Championship. By the way, there will not be a Raw watch-along this Monday night, pretty much due to that. Also, I have plans with Elizabeth, so we're not going to be here to watch Raw. Might not be too good of a show since it's going head-to-head with the National Championship. So that's perceivably why Pat McAfee is not going to be at Raw in Dallas. If that's the case, and he's not there, and Corey Graves does not replace him, that's going to be telling. Because if everything was fine with Corey Graves, you would think they would just get him over on Raw with Michael Cole to call it in McAfee's place. He would be the logical choice with Barrett and Tessitore, being on SmackDown. But if he's not, that is going to be interesting. So we'll see if this turns out to be a work or if they turn it into one. It's very possible that it's not a work now, but it could become one. Maybe it sets something up with McAfee and Corey Graves. And who knows how McAfee feels about it. McAfee would be like, "Fuck Corey Graves. I'm a star. I've got his job." Or maybe McAfee feels bad. And he's like, "Hey, if I got to do something, you want me to step aside for Corey, I'm cool with that." Who knows? We don't really know. All we do know for sure is that Graves is unhappy because that came out of his own mouth. So beyond that, beyond his facial expressions, being pissed about being at New Year's Evil, and clearly being mad about being bumped for Pat McAfee, that's all we really know right now. So we will see if Graves shows back up on WWE TV, either on Raw or on NXT, or if he jumps and they let him go and he goes to AEW, that would be pretty funny. All right, let's see here. Before we get into this WWE and TNA partnership, let me knock out another $10 from our friend Ryan. Thanks, dude. Graves did get cleared in 2022 and signed a new deal in 24, but maybe he did a Mella, but maybe he and Mella go to AEW. Also, Pat will probably be in the Rumble, so there's an opportunity. That's true. Pat will probably jump off headset and jump in there, or he won't be on headset and he'll just come out. Yeah, maybe him and Carmella go to AEW. They possibly could, but if he just signed a new deal in 2024, the only way he's going to be able to get out of that is to be fired. So kind of a weird way to go about it, considering how, Triple H kind of gave him that opportunity, and now you're actively trying to get that man to fire you. That's crazy. Unless there's more to this, I can't imagine this one incident being enough to set Corey this far over the edge. This feels like this would have to be a last straw type of thing, like where Corey's been frustrated for many months and then this happens and now he's just reached his limit type of thing. But just this incident on its own doesn't feel like it's enough to piss him off to that degree. It can certainly disappoint him, maybe even frustrate him a little bit, but he seems full-blown mad, big mad. So we will see. Oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you for that, Zane G. I forgot. We did see the advertisement on Raw last week that JBL will be on Raw this week, which means Zane's right. He's going to be the guest commentator for Raw, not Corey Graves. So interesting. Oh, and then Andy Linnell is saying Wade Barrett is going to be on Raw this week. Well, that's good. JBL doesn't need to call the whole show. He just needs to be an extra person. He needs to be the third man, not the second man. So if Barrett is going to be on Raw and then JBL is going to join in as well, that pretty much answers my question. No Corey Graves. Crazy, crazy. The new one, thanks for 10 from you, my friend. Good to see you, Vontae, as always. I always thought Corey was a little too over with the top. Oh, sorry. I always thought Corey was a little too over the top with clowning Byron Saxton. Yeah, I understand he's a heel, but a little too much in my opinion. He made him look like a bitch. He did. He was always up the ass of Byron Saxton. And I don't know. I think in a straight up shoot fight, I think Byron would take him. I mean, they're both extremely clean cut, pretty boys, but I think Byron would fuck him up. Corey needs to watch his mouth. But I also think the two are probably tight and they're cool with that type of stuff. I mean, Heenan and Monsoon went at it like nobody's business, but still, Heenan and Monsoon is not Graves and Saxton. That's for sure. Ryan, yes, the NFC Championship game next weekend is the early game, but depending on what the Chiefs do, I might be with some family. I'm trying to figure that out. That's why I didn't make any plans yet for next Sunday. But if I am going to be here and nothing's going on, we're going to do Royal Rumble 2004. All right, let's move on to the next piece of news, and we're going to talk about this WWE and TNA partnership that has now been certified. WWE and TNA have been working together for quite some time, even as far back as a few years ago. Mickie James came in with the Knockouts title in the Rumble. Remember that? That was like the beginning of it. And then, we saw a little bit more and more, especially with NXT, with some talent going back and forth. Joe Hendry making some appearances in NXT, and it feels like NXT and WWE gets the better end of the deal. They get all of TNA's top stars, where TNA gets all of WWE's like lower end talent in NXT, which is a little funny. And when it comes to this partnership, what I think is cool about it is just the fact that it's WWE and TNA. This channel was pretty much founded and created because when I started sniffing around YouTube and the internet and reading wrestling stuff and all that 15 years ago, I started getting a whole bunch of people telling me that TNA was going to put WWE out of business. And not only were they telling me this, they were telling me this in the most condescending, asshole-ish way, as if I am the stupidest person in the world for not being able to recognize that TNA is the future and WWE is for John Cena, Fruity Pebble, little kids, and they're going to go out of business. So I found that to be so asinine that I started a channel to say, no, they won't. I think this means I was right? Pretty cool to see this actually in writing. That's the cool part. Here is the press release that WWE sent out yesterday. And I quote, WWE, part of TKO Holdings Group and TNA Wrestling, part of TKO Group Holdings and TNA Wrestling, one of the world's top wrestling brands and a subsidiary of Anthem Sports and Entertainment, TNA announced a multi-year partnership aimed at creating unprecedented crossover opportunities within WWE and TNA programming for NXT superstars and TNA wrestling stars. That tells you all you need to know right there. For NXT superstars and TNA wrestling stars. Basically, you're going to be our bitch. That's all that meant. That's what that meant. The agreement will enable talent to garner additional exposure across key WWE and TNA programming, including weekly flagship shows such as NXT and TNA Impact, select premium live events, and TNA pay-per-views, in turn bolstering their in-ring development with exposure to world-class talent and coaching. So, plus there's also some quotes from Shawn Michaels and all of that in here. So this entire thing is WWE basically just owning TNA, it feels like. They are so lucky to be with us and to have their talent come in and enjoy our world-class training facility and things like that. So this is great for TNA. I think it's awesome, but it's clear, this is going to be a very, very one-sided partnership. And when you look throughout the history of WWE's partnerships with other promotions, usually doesn't work out well for the other promotion. So forgive me for not being too overly excited about this. In the end, I don't think it's going to really result in too much, but just the concept of it is very, very cool. Now, one of the things I would like to see them do, I saw a lot of fans saying, oh my God, John Cena should make an appearance at the Impact or in TNA. I don't think they call it the Impact Zone anymore, whatever they call it now. And I'm like, no, John Cena's not going to be there. The only major star that I would like to see jump over to TNA is a major former WWE champion that's not doing a damn thing right now. I think he's still rehabbing his injury and still nursing some battle wounds and whatnot. Plus, he's in his late 40s now. That is, of course, AJ Styles. And if AJ Styles were to be able to reappear in TNA in some way, perhaps even win their championship one more time, and most importantly, go into their Hall of Fame, which I believe him and Sting should have been the first two in there. And he wasn't able to go last time for whatever reason. So I think getting AJ over there, maybe even giving him a run with the title, a quick one, and putting him in the Hall of Fame would be one thing I would very much like to see in this partnership. But that is a situation that benefits TNA, not WWE. And I don't think WWE is going to do anything that's not going to benefit them. So I'm hoping that they will understand that that would be important for AJ. That would be important for the fans of the company that you have just partnered up with. And it's not about you. It's about him and that company and their fans. That would be special for them. And that's what I think they should do. So you can talk all about NXT and TNA talent flipping back and forth. Tomorrow night at Genesis, Joe Hendry is taking on Nick Nemeth, right? That's probably going to be the match where he finally wins the title because he didn't win it last time and people were pissed. So Hendry will probably pick up the TNA championship tomorrow. I'm curious what Nick Nemeth will be called if he shows up on NXT or in WWE. Is he Nick Nemeth or is he Dolph Ziggler? I'm curious about that. He might not show up there at all. It might just be some NXT talent coming in there. But if Joe Hendry wins the title tomorrow, then he'll be champ, and that makes sense for him to be champ when this partnership starts. By the time they get to the next NXT show, he can make an appearance there with the championship since he's already done some work there. If you bring in Nemeth, then you got to worry about what you do with the name and stuff. So I feel like Joe Hendry could be winning the championship tomorrow. Also, Jordan Grace is going to face Tessa Blanchard, and Jordan Grace is reportedly finishing up with TNA and is probably going to sign with WWE. But since this partnership now exists, I don't know. The finish could go either way. I felt like Jordan Grace has to wrestle that asshole, Tessa Blanchard, who sucks. She's probably going to have to lose to her. She's probably going to have to put her over because Tessa's coming in, Jordan is going out. That's generally what happens. But if the TNA WWE partnership exists, Jordan might not be gone. She might be working for WWE, but she can still do TNA shit, which means maybe she won't lose tomorrow. But I feel like she's going to have to. But all in all, we're just going to have to wait and see how all of this goes. We'll have to see how many crossovers they do. And in the press release, it does say that we will see TNA stars on select WWE premium live events. So we could see, a Nick Nemeth show up, fucking Dolph Ziggler show up and have a match with Cody or something. Might be fun. We will see. And we'll see if maybe his brother can get signed. That might be cool. You guys are going to want to check out Collision tonight. I will watch it tonight when I get home because Christopher Daniels is going to call it a career. Texas Deathmatch versus Hangman Page. I'm not going to spoil you or anything like that about who wins, but that is the match we are going to see tonight. That's been advertised. It was taped, I think, after Dynamite in that cool venue in Cincy. And Daniels had a hell of a career, man. He wrestled everywhere, and he's now into his 50s. Apparently, he's been looking for a place to retire. And the match tonight versus Hangman Page reportedly is going to be his final match ever. Sir, Daniels, hell of a career. Had the pleasure of watching you wrestle in person a few times actually. Met him on the Jericho Cruise, met him at WrestleCon. Daniels is good people, and we wish him the best in his retirement, which I'm sure will continue in a backstage role in AEW. Speaking of backstage in AEW, Scott D'Amore was spotted at Dynamite this week. Hire him, Tony Khan. Hire him, Tony Khan. Hey, Tony Khan. Scott D'Amore, hire him. Moving on. Megan Bayne is also officially signed with AEW. We saw her turn up in that Casino Gauntlet on Wednesday, had a really good showing for herself. She's a big, strong woman, like her a lot, now officially with the company after she had a couple of AEW Dark appearances, I think, way back in the day. Now good to see her back in there, and she is signed on full-time. So good for Megan Bayne. That's a good addition to that roster for the women. AEW Grand Slam is kind of weird. Now, that match that Megan Bayne was in, that gauntlet, Toni Storm won that. She earned the opportunity to face Mariah May now at AEW Grand Slam in Australia, in Brisbane, on Saturday, February 15th. Now, this whole thing has been a mess. They announced this many, many months ago. I don't know if they realized that it was going to be on the same weekend as the NBA All-Star Game festivities. So that's all happening on TNT. And originally this is going to be a pay-per-view. I think it was also going to be outdoors. Then it wasn't a pay-per-view. Now it's indoors. And now it's going to be a TV special instead of a pay-per-view that's going to air on Saturday night, February 15th, apparently at 8 p.m. Excuse me. Apparently at 8 p.m. in Collision's old time slot. But that's also the same weekend of the NBA All-Star stuff, which might run late, which means it's going to air sometime after that. So it probably won't be an 8 p.m. sharp start time. It might be 9, it might be 10. Either way, it's going to be about a full day tape delay from when it was taped several hours earlier. So they're going to be taping this. If you live on the East Coast, they're going to be taping at about 2:30 a.m. for you, 11:30 p.m. for me here on the West Coast. And that's going to be late the previous night. And then it's going to air at 8 p.m. on Saturday at about a 20 or 21 hour tape delay, which means the spoilers are going to be out. And I'm sure the show is going to be great, especially for the fans there. But months ago, you thought this was going to be a really big deal. Grand Slam going overseas to Australia, of all places. Whenever WWE's going overseas, they pack it out. It's a hot crowd. It's one of the best pay-per-view crowds of the year every single time. They see great success when they go across the pond. So does AEW when they go to the UK or go across the Atlantic. They see great numbers over there too. I'm sure the Brisbane show will be tremendously fun, but it's going to be airing here as a special TV special on TNT. It's also going to simulcast on Max. So I don't know if Max is also going to wait for the All-Star stuff to end. It's kind of a mess. It's been poorly planned, poorly executed, poorly advertised, poorly promoted, and it's coming up here. Yeah, still in like 3 or 4 weeks, we have some time, but I feel like the time slot here is really going to do a disservice to this show. It's also going to be running up against NXT Vengeance Day, I believe, as well. So between all of those factors, AEW Grand Slam ratings-wise probably is not going to perform well, one would assume. It's not going to do terrible because it is a special event, a special show, and fans are going to make sure they see it. But I can't see AEW, when it's all said and done, being happy with the response and the numbers they see from Grand Slam. This feels like it's set up to be a disaster. So we will see. And that's a shame too, because I'm kind of interested to see where they go with this Toni Storm and Mariah May match and whatnot. So we'll see. There's also some talk this week about Penta's debut. Penta, we watched him debut on Raw together this past Monday. That was really fun. Good match with Chad Gable. And a really awesome post-match promo as well that I wasn't really expecting, where he spoke in Spanish, spoke in English, had his family, a bunch of beautiful women right there in the front row there to watch his debut. And the match with Chad Gable was very, very good. And he came in with a ton of hype. I myself am surprised at this level of hype. Obviously, he's very marketable. You know, he's a luchador that a lot of people know. They can sell a shit ton of those masks. But when it was reported that the Lucha Brothers were coming to WWE, I was thinking, good. I would love to see them there. I wasn't thinking along the lines of, oh, Penta's going to come in and change the fucking business. So they are really, really hyping him up. And we will see if he just turns into Dragon Lee or not, or if they are really serious about this. Now, there was some talk about Penta going over in a segment, which apparently was true. Fightful Select had a really good write-up on that this week, where they did mention that Penta's segment did go over time, but it didn't really lead to any heat on Penta. It was more because WWE had a hard out. As we noticed on Monday, the show was only 2.5 hours. That was planned. I sniffed that out 45 minutes into the show when so much had already been accomplished. I'm like, there's no way we're going to make 3 hours here. And then you could tell by the time we got to the main event that it was going to be a 2.5 hour show. So when WWE says they have flexibility with Raw's ending time, that doesn't mean they just end it whenever they want. They have to know when they want to end it. They still want to have an internal stop time. They don't just go and say, oh, I guess we'll just end it now. They want to end at a specific time. That time can fluctuate for us, but they're always going to know what time the show is going to end. So apparently a few things got cut. Nobody really knows what. The segment ran a little bit over, but it didn't result in any heat on Penta, and that's good because apparently everybody is happy that he was there. They didn't hide him at all. He was there throughout the day, talking to people, mingling, taking all his promo photos and whatnot. Plus, they released his merch before the show even aired, and WWE complained it was a happy, or not complained, claimed that it was a happy accident, which I think we all doubt that. So Penta, very successful debut this week on Raw, and that was a lot of fun. Let's talk about a sad passing in pro wrestling. Rest in peace, Bob Uecker. The legendary Bob Uecker passed away a couple of days ago. I think he was, 72 or 79? I didn't write his age down. Bob Uecker, of course, is a WWE Hall of Famer, as he was present at the 2000, at WrestleMania 4 and WrestleMania 3. 3 and 4, back-to-back WrestleManias for Bob. I think on WrestleMania 3, he was the ring announcer, and he was... did some guest commentary. He was obsessed with Fabulous Moolah at that show. And then he returned at WrestleMania 4 in a much more memorable appearance where he was the guest ring announcer again, I think, for the main event. He was also doing backstage interviews, and a very famous one with Andre the Giant right after Andre eliminated Hogan, and he choked Uecker, and he makes that great face. I love the interview at WrestleMania 4 with Mr. Fuji and the Islanders, where... or not Mr. Fuji and the Island, Mr. Fuji and Demolition? Yeah, I guess Mr. Fuji and Demolition, probably before they won the tag titles. And Uecker looks at Fuji and he goes, I'm never eating sushi either. Just fun shit from Bob Uecker. Of course, just a bit outside from Major League. And he did play baseball for the Milwaukee Brewers, did commentary for them as well. And he was one of the stars of Mr. Belvedere. He played the dad on a show that I grew up watching when I was a kid. Lasted for, 3 or 4 seasons. Mr. Belvedere was good stuff. Bob Uecker is an absolute legend. Great voice. Absolutely hysterical personality. You'll never hear a Bob Uecker story that won't crack you the fuck up. And he did pass through our world of pro wrestling back in the 80s, made it into the WWE Hall of Fame. Rest in peace, Bob Uecker, a true legend. Let's talk about someone who's not a true legend. Now, I'm only putting this in my news because I think it's funny. I think it's absolutely funny. Hulk Hogan is at it again with the stories this guy has. He's got another one, dropped a doozy on the Real American Beers Twitter page, where they have a video of Hulk Hogan who is telling this clearly bullshit story about Andre the Giant and his drinking. And he says, he goes, yeah, I was at home and in Tampa, and Andre called me. He goes, "Hey, boss, I'm at the Tampa airport. Why don't you come over here?" or something. And first of all, if Andre is in Tampa, why is Hogan home? If Andre's traveling, why is Hogan at home? Why isn't he on the road too? So Hogan's at home. He gets a call from Andre from the airport, supposedly. And he goes, come drink with me or whatever. And so Hogan goes to the airport, and he says he walks into the lounge there, and Andre already has about 6 beers in front of him. And then he proceeds to say that he sat there in the lounge with Andre, and Andre drank, just deep breath while you hear this, okay? Andre drank 108 beers in 55 minutes. That's what he said. And I sat there, and Andre drank 108 beers in 55 minutes. My God, that's a specific amount of numbers there. How do you know it was 108 beers specifically? Why 108? Why not 100? Why not 110? Why 108? And why 55 minutes? Why couldn't you just say he drank 100 beers in an hour? But when you're so specific, 108 beers in 55 minutes, well, bullshit. 100 beers in an hour would have been bullshit. 108 beers in 55 minutes is also bullshit. So I responded to that. And as the last time I checked on this tweet, it had nearly 8,000 likes on it. So then I just tweet this to our friend Hulk. I said, Andre absolutely did not drink 108 beers in 55 minutes, you chronically lying, football-skinned clump of shit. And it got a lot of responses and a lot of positive responses, but it got so many responses from people who are telling me that the story is true. And it started small, and I started, okay, well, this guy's stupid. And then it just kept happening. And I had all of these replies from people saying, this is true. This really happened. And they're starting to, it's so nice to be educated about Andre the Giant from people who were born 25 years after he died. So nice. So they all start telling me that, no, this story is true. But I already know what they're thinking. I already know what they're talking about. What they're talking about is the story that we've all heard that's been told over and over and over and over again for decades and decades and decades and decades about Andre the Giant drinking over 100 beers in one night, or 100 beers in one sitting, which is probably true. Nobody is disputing that Andre the Giant drank 100 beers before. Yet all these people tell me, oh, his hands were so big and his mouth was so big. I'm like, you weren't even around to fucking know who he was. Shut up. I invented Andre the Giant. So they're trying to educate me, right? And so then I'm starting to be told that Hogan is not lying about this, and then this is true. But what they're remembering, what they're fixated on, is the story of Andre drinking 100 beers in one night. 100 beers in one night is not 108 beers in 55 minutes, which is what Hogan is trying to claim here. That would mean Andre would be drinking 2 beers per minute, nonstop, for an hour. And this is, by the way, someone who has breathing issues, as most people of his size do. We're talking 81 pounds of liquid, 5 or 6% of which would be alcohol, into his body. I don't care how big you are, that is physically impossible. Physically impossible to do that. I don't know. Andre's drinking is the stuff of legend. We know that. We are not debating Andre's tolerance for alcohol. We're debating Andre defying laws of physics and gravity and human biology. You cannot drink 108 beers in 55 minutes. Well, the guy at the hot dog eating contest, it's not a contest. Hulk Hogan didn't drive to the Tampa airport and say, hey, boss, show us that 108 beers in 55 minutes party trick you always do. No, it's a completely bullshit story. And then I had people saying, were you there? No, I wasn't there. Guess who else wasn't there? Hulk Hogan. It's a made-up story. He made it up. He's taking the story that everybody's heard about Andre consuming 100 beers in a sitting and applying it to his own story. And so because that this story of Andre drinking 100 beers before exists, that makes the Hogan MAGA fans think that Hogan is telling the absolute truth. This is why a dumbass got elected. Because you have people absolutely insisting that I'm just a far left cuck who doesn't believe Hulk Hogan and all the truths that he tells. And so this is more funny than anything else. This isn't even news. I just wanted to bring it up to you guys that this tweet is still going off. People are still debating and arguing whether or not a human being can consume 108 beers in 55 minutes. You can't. A fourth grade education level will allow you to make this determination. If you believe it's possible, then you have less than a fourth grade education. It's not. And so it's a harmless lie because Hogan lies so much. And the Real American Beer, the tweet about this from Real American Beer, I think has 300 likes on it. Mine has 8,000. I ratioed the fuck out of them. I think I even have more followers than the All American Beer Twitter page. But posting that video of Hulk Hogan telling this clearly bullshit story about Andre the Giant and Hogan using Andre's name to peddle that fucking beer is gross and disgusting. And it made for some really funny arguing yesterday on social media. I also got hit with a lot of quotes. They were highlighting things from the internet that says Andre drank 100 beers and you just want to shake them. I'm like, we know he drank 100 beers one time. One time that did happen. Yes, we know that. It wasn't this time, and it certainly wasn't within a 55-minute time span. I don't know, good mic work. Jake Roberts said blah, blah, blah. Jake Roberts can embellish with the best of them. All wrestlers do. I saw Jake Roberts' live show on the Jericho Cruise, and he was telling some fucking whoppers on there. I mean whoppers. Crazy, insane, embellished stories. I think that's the point. You've heard it right. Telegram, telephone, telewrestler. And the fact that so many people were arguing with me, I'm like, wait a minute. And arguing with me in such a condescending way, like I'm the one who doesn't understand. I'm like, you've never listened to a podcast or watched shoot interviews back in the day from all these different wrestlers giving their accounts of incidents or situations in wrestling. Every one of these stories is different. You know, you hear about the Montreal Screwjob. Everybody's got a different take on it. Where they were, where Brett was, who punched who. Every story is like that. That's just the way it is just in general with humans in society. You tell a story, you pass it from person to person to person. It's not going to be the same story by the time it gets to the end of the line. That's just the way it is. And it's like that the most in wrestling. It's always been kind of an ongoing joke and rib in wrestling that you can't tell the wrestlers anything because they gossip like little fucking schoolgirls. And so wrestlers are going to naturally embellish their stories. Ric Flair thinks that he had 10,000 matches with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. He thinks he had 10,000 matches with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. It's not mathematically possible. He hasn't lived long enough. He hasn't wrestled enough time to have 10,000 matches with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. 10,000 matches with one opponent, mind you. Just one. And so when it comes to Hogan, everything he says is a lie. Like, think of some of those lies that Hogan has told in his life. What about the one about SummerSlam 1992, where he met a very ill Make-A-Wish kid in England and he got him tickets to SummerSlam at Wembley Stadium to watch him wrestle in the main event? He said these things. Complete fucking lie. He wasn't even at SummerSlam. He wasn't even in the UK at the time. He wasn't working for WWE. He wasn't even on the card. Didn't even wrestle. Don't forget, Hulk Hogan also claimed that both Metallica and the Rolling Stones wanted him as their bass player, but Metallica's Lars Ulrich came to Hogan himself and asked him to play for the group. The George Foreman grill is hilarious. Now, while Hogan might have gotten a call about some sort of grill, he claims that George Foreman got the George Foreman grill because Hulk Hogan was picking up his kids from school when the call came in. No callback, no voicemail, no answering machine, no number to call, nothing like that, because he went to go pick up, dipshit and dipshitette from school. He missed the whole George Foreman grill opportunity. He also said that he partied with John Belushi after WrestleMania 2 in 1986. John Belushi died in 1982. Don't forget about the Undertaker pile driver. Undertaker tombstones Hogan at Survivor Series in 91, wins the championship. And then Hogan told Taker that he caused permanent damage to his neck by botching the tombstone and freaked Undertaker out and just completely lied to him. Hulk Hogan said that he sat next to Kerry Von Erich on an airplane 72 hours before Kerry Von Erich killed himself. Bullshit. Speaking of unaliving oneself, Hogan claimed he was going to do that himself. He was going to commit suicide, literally had the gun in his hand and pointed at his head when he got a call from Layla Ali, and he took that as a sign that he should be trying to stay alive. He also claimed that Tatsumi Fujinami tried to shoot on him in Japan and steal the WWF title, but he won the fight. He went on Arsenio Hall and said that he's not a steroid user or abuser during the steroid trial, and then had to go on under oath on trial and admit that he took steroids. So what's more likely here? That Hulk Hogan is doing what he always does and is lying his fucking ass off, or Andre the Giant deep-throated 4 cases of beer in 55 minutes? What's more likely? It's a hoot. It's a hoot. Twitter is a crazy place. Twitter is an absolutely crazy, crazy place. So I wanted to share that story because it's a story that's still ongoing. I've since muted the conversation. Our friend Sean Ross Sapp didn't help out with that any, because he quote tweeted me saying something pretty funny, which boosted the tweet, of course. So got bombarded with people that say, nope, Hogan is absolutely true. You just don't like him because he's wearing a MAGA shirt. No, I don't like him because he's a piece of shit. That's why. The fuck. So anyway, that was a funny story that happened to Greg yesterday. Moving on. Let's see. Let's talk about Raw Monday night. We were here. I felt like crap. I had COVID, but we were here watching it together, and we saw Penta's great debut. We talked about that. We saw Lyra Valkyria win the Intercontinental Championship tournament. She beat Dakota Kai. I have a feeling she's probably going to face Becky Lynch for that championship at WrestleMania. That's the match I would do. We had Punk and Rollins and Drew arguing about the Royal Rumble. They are all in for the Rumble, which made us wonder live during the stream what Gunther was going to do. Who the hell is Gunther going to face at the Royal Rumble if Punk, Rollins, and Drew are all in there? And that's when Jey Uso came out. And we had a Jey Uso and Gunther confrontation, but they weren't setting up a match for the Royal Rumble. They were setting up a match for Saturday night's main event, 1 week from tonight. So my only thought is that they might run it back. They're going to have to run it back at the Royal Rumble, or Gunther isn't going to have a match at the Royal Rumble. And that seems like it's more likely at this point that Cody and Owens is going to be the championship match, and Gunther will not defend the title. I thought he was going to defend against CM Punk for sure at the Royal Rumble, but then Punk, he declared for the Rumble instead, so that's not happening, which made me wonder what Gunther is going to do. Now he's facing Jey Uso at Saturday night's main event. So I feel like the only way Gunther wrestles at Royal Rumble is if they do some sort of a schmoz here with Jey and they have to run it back. That's the only way. Otherwise, I think Gunther is going to have the night off and he's going to sit up in the balcony there and watch. I think that's what's going to happen. So looks like no title defense for Gunther at the Royal Rumble unless they do a schmoz or a no contest or something like that with Jey Uso that sets up a rematch. But we already have a big return match on that show that's gimmicked with Cody and Owens. Don't think you really need to do it again, to be honest, for the Royal Rumble. And aside from Gunther and Cody and Owens, what is the card for the Royal Rumble? Do we have any other matches announced besides the men and women's Rumble and Cody and Owens? Is Ripley going to have a defense? Is Tiffy going to have a defense? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. SmackDown was here, right here in the whale's vagina last night. I almost forgot that it was here. I did not go, obviously. I was at work. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't go because a 3-hour SmackDown is just too much right now. And I think the show had good stuff on it, but it only had like an hour of good stuff on it and then 2 hours of filler, which is probably going to be the case until they start evening out these rosters. But we had a pretty fun opening promo between Kevin Owens and Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio in his hometown. We had Angie and I think Aaliyah there in the front row. And they bantered back and forth. And Owens said that he wants Rey to win the Royal Rumble so that when Rey wins, he can challenge him for my title. But Rey reminds Owens that you're not champion, Cody's champion, you stole that belt. And it's kind of funny how WWE is allowing Owens to do this. They're validating this. They're indulging him with this championship to the point where they're even going to raise it above the ring and stuff, which is kind of weird. So I think Owens goes to attack Ray. They have a little brawl. And then later on, backstage, right after that segment, they set up a match between the two that night. Now, also, Aldis is there trying to get Cody to sign some new provision or some new updated contract for the Royal Rumble match. Owens and Cody are kind of being wishy-washy about it, so that's starting to frustrate Aldis. We also saw Jimmy Uso taking on Carmelo Hayes one-on-one. This was fun. Unfortunately, it ended in a no contest when Jacob Fatu showed up on the apron. Him and Tama attacked Jimmy Uso, no contest, and they disposed of Jimmy. And then Solo comes out. First time we've seen Solo since losing Tribal Combat. He's in the ring. He gets on the mic, but the fans are booing their asses off, booing him right out of the building, Dominic and Hulk Hogan style. And Solo then just takes the mic, he drops it, and he leaves. And he just walks out without saying anything. Then Jacob Fatu picks up the mic and absolutely goes off. This guy is a absolute fucking monster. Terrifying man, this Jacob Fatu. And he had so much aura and intensity and energy that he is about to full-blown break the fuck out and become a top star in WWE. I have no doubt. And he is just blasting on the mic. And he finishes it off with, "I'm just getting started," or whatever he said. And I believe him. And as soon as he delivered that line, LA Knight's music hits to kill all the excitement. He runs out there, immediately gets outnumbered. And then Braun Strowman shows up. Strowman comes out, big face-off with him and Jacob Fatu in the ring that the fans were getting super excited for. Tama Tonga pulls Jacob out. They retreat. And later on, they book that match for Saturday night's main event. Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman. That's going to be all kinds of fun. Jacob Fatu absolutely needs to beat Braun Strowman on Saturday. I believe he will. And it depends on what they want to do. I mean, if they're really going to start putting the pedal to the metal here with Jacob, I would start booking towards a Jacob and Roman WrestleMania match where Jacob wins. Like, I mean, if you want this guy to get over, if you want him to be a big deal, that's the way you're going to have to do it. You know, maybe Roman and him mix it up in the Rumble. Maybe Roman eliminates Jacob, you know, but then something happens, Roman gets tossed out or whatever, and then Jacob Fatu and Roman, you know, maybe battle for the Ula Fala, and maybe Jacob wins it at WrestleMania, something like that. He's going to need to beat a major person in order to get him over to that degree. And if you want Jacob Fatu to reach the heights that the fans are feeling like he can reach, he's going to have to beat Roman. I hope that he does. I'm ready for his breakout. I feel like a couple things need to happen first. Maybe he needs to battle Solo Sikoa first, dispose of Solo, but right now he's still endlessly devoted to Solo. And something's going to happen there where he's going to have a change of heart, or maybe Solo does, or whatever. So it might be Jacob beating Solo first, then beating Roman, beating the both of them to solidify that neither one of y'all deserved that Ufalafa. It was me. So I'm ready for him to break out. Jacob Fatu is so incredibly fun to have on television right now. Unbelievable. We had Motor City Machine Guns defeating Los Garza last night in a number one contenders match, so they got a title shot coming up. They might stick that on SNME. I'm not sure. Probably not, though. Piper Niven defeated B-Fab, and Kevin Owens had a good match with Rey Mysterio right here in San Diego. Hit him with the pop-up powerbomb for the win. Earlier on in the match, he was outside the ring, jawing with Rey's family a little bit. And then after the match, Cody ends up running out there to fend off Kevin Owens, because after Kevin wins, he continues to beat down on Rey. Cody runs out there to help out. And then backstage, Aldis tells Cody that since him and Kevin Owens have been so uncooperative signing this contract, that they're going to have to sign this new amended contract next Saturday on Saturday night's main event. So they're going to do a contract signing, and Aldis is going to bring in San Antonio's own Shawn Michaels, because the show is in San Antonio, to moderate this thing. So it's going to be Owens and Cody. And according to Aldis, next week on Saturday Night's Main Event, they're going to have to relinquish their respective championships so they can be raised above the ring in the ladder match. And apparently there's going to be some extra stipulation in here, which I don't really understand yet. And what's weird about that is that you're basically telling Kevin Owens, we're going to allow you all this pretending you've done to be champion. You're champion now. Your persistence has paid off. You kept pretending, and now your pretend championship has turned into a real one. And that's weird. What I'm hoping, though, is that, well, I'm hoping two things. Number one, I'm still holding out hope that Kevin Owens beats Cody Rhodes. I mean, when is he ever going to win the fucking title again? So I'm kind of hoping that he still beats Cody. Although with Cody's WrestleMania plans now, that might not be happening. You could still do Cody and John without the championship. John doesn't have to win the title at WrestleMania or anything, but he might. But I'm still hoping that Owens wins the championship. I'm hoping either that happens or perhaps maybe the Winged Eagle Championship sticks around past the Royal Rumble, since they're making it part of the storyline now. And you would think that if Kevin Owens does win, then the Winged Eagle might stick around. It might not if Cody wins, because Kevin's the one running around with it. If Cody wins, what's the point keeping it around? But if Owens wins, then keeping the Winged Eagle around would be super fun. What if they made like a Kevin Owens custom Winged Eagle title with specialized nameplates and his name written in duct tape on it, shit like that? It would be awesome. It would be cool. A Cody Winged Eagle would be cool too. But I'm hoping that maybe, and Kevin Owens, from the best of what I can tell, is still just running around with a replica. I don't know why they're doing that when they have real Winged Eagles they could use. I guess it has to do with the WWF logo or something, I guess. But he's still running around out there with that replica. So if Owens wins, that means the Winged Eagle will likely stick around for a little bit longer as well. And that's why I'm rooting for Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. We will see. We will be watching it together. The main event last night was a great match between Tiffany Stratton and Bayley. Tiffany beats Bayley clean. Beat her clean. Alabama Slam up for the prettiest moonsault for the win. Good match. Good victory for Tiffany Stratton. And I feel like she's going to be holding that championship to take it into WrestleMania to probably face Charlotte Flair, who they ran a vignette for last night on SmackDown. Charlotte's return is now official and imminent. They might just bring her back at the Rumble, but they're not just going to bring her back as a surprise. They're now running vignettes for her, so this means she's probably going to be in the Rumble. She would have to be in the Rumble. It would be insane if she was not in the Rumble. What if they have the Rumble and then Charlotte comes back the next night on Raw? Why didn't you go in the Rumble? Why didn't you try to earn a championship match? So I feel like Charlotte and Cena could both win the Rumbles this year, and her and Cena are about to set some records. I don't know how that's going to work with her and Cena both on the verge of breaking Ric Flair's record. I don't know if you want one to outshine the other. If this is the year of Cena, I don't know if they want Charlotte breaking the same record he's breaking in the same year. I don't know if they care or not about doing that at the same time. Don't know. So we will see. But you got to think when Charlotte comes back, it's going to be probably a lot of the same old with her. But I think fans need to not worry so much about how Charlotte calls all of her own shots and she refuses to put people over. Charlotte is a valuable WWE legend, don't get me wrong, and she was a major part of the women's revolution in WWE and the evolution of women's wrestling in WWE over the last 10 years is all that kicked off about 10 years ago, back in 2015. And she's been a big part of that, but WWE has got a lot of talent. There should never be any talent in WWE that's got you by the balls, that calls their own shots, that does whatever they want. We already get enough of that shit from The Rock, and Charlotte isn't valuable enough. So what if she went to AEW? Let her. She's not gonna. Andrade's in WWE, but still, it's like she doesn't have any leverage over them. So this belief that the fans like to have whenever she wins a match, that it's her doing it and she's demanding to win, it's just, that's not reality anymore. So I feel like whatever they give to Charlotte, whatever matches she wins, isn't because she's demanding to win and refusing to put people over. Fans are always going to see it that way, but unfortunately, that's just not the reality now. Maybe there was a time in Charlotte's career where she did a little bit of that, just like all of your favorites did. But I don't think that's going to be reality for this particular run. Anything that Charlotte is given is because WWE wants to give it to her, not because she's demanding it or refusing to put people over and all that shit. Those days are over. So Charlotte's going to win a championship again. She very well could. And she probably is going to have a major match at WrestleMania. But you know what? That's okay. That's okay. If she faces Tiffany Stratton and beats her, so what? Tiffany Stratton got a match with Charlotte at WrestleMania. Title match. Big deal. We will see the Queen back pretty soon. The Saturday night's main event card currently stands as follows. Jey Uso versus Gunther. Sheamus versus Braun Breaker for the IC title. Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman. And that Cody and Owens contract signing that Shawn Michaels will be present for. We will see if they add a fourth match or if the signing is the fourth match, you know? And I'm curious if that's going to be the main event segment or not. It better not be. I think Cody and Owens should open the show with the contract signing, and then Gunther and Jay should be your main event there. Hopefully, anyway. Dynamite this past Wednesday. We watched it together. We don't have to review the show, but we did see Kenny Omega return back to AEW, defeating Brian Cage in a really good match. Tony Storm won that super fun Casino Gauntlet, so the rookie Tony Storm has fallen into this title match against Mariah May that's going to be happening at Grand Slam, and I'm hoping that they're not rushing this too much, that Tony maybe loses to Mariah, but something is revealed at Grand Slam because they are in Australia. So I feel like they got to do a big reveal there. So since we have like a month to get there, keep having Tony doing what she's doing on TV. The one good thing about Tony winning the way she did is that for the fans that say, oh, they're rushing this, not really. Now you've got several weeks on TV to kind of interact with Tony and Mariah to set up whatever they're going to do at Grand Slam. And I'm hoping that we get some grand reveal here where Tony time comes out, or maybe we get a Luther appearance and, you know, he brings out Timeless Tony Storm, or she goes in as this current Tony Storm and then shows back up as the champion as Timeless. I don't know. I think we're going to get some sort of a big reveal at Grand Slam, but I would be open to Mariah May retaining at Grand Slam. So we'll see. But Tony winning was pretty fun on Wednesday night. Also, the Hurt Syndicate beat Private Party and Mark Briscoe in a six-man. Hurt Syndicate, obviously, totally winning those championships soon. And I'm perfectly fine with that because I've been completely uninterested in Private Party's title run. I'm glad they got it because they deserved it, but I'm not a big believer in just giving people shit because they deserve it. It's got to be more than that. AEW, and I'm not blaming Private Party, I'm blaming AEW because they have got to do better about making me care about their title run. And they've done a shit job of that. So Hurt Syndicate winning the title soon. Let's do it sooner rather than later. Hook also defeated Christian via DQ when he was attacked by the Patriarchy, but Samoa Joe made his return on Wednesday night and saved Hook right before Taz was about to jump in with his surgically repaired knee and get in there and save his son. Samoa Joe is back, and I hope we see a lot more of Samoa Joe, and it might be fun if he gets involved in the Death Riders angle, maybe to be the person to shut that shit down. Because if we're waiting for Darby Allin to come back from Everest to win that championship, we're talking 4 more months of this bullshit, and nobody wants that. Joe coming back, maybe he can be a driving force behind moving on from the Death Riders angle. And of course, in the main event, they booked Jon Moxley to face Powerhouse Hobbs, who won the Casino Gauntlet the previous week. And a lot of fans were calling for a big, major upset here for Hobbs to destroy Moxley and win the title. And during the watch-along that I was kind of arguing against that, not because I wouldn't love to see Hobbs do that, but because I don't want it to affect negatively on Hobbs, because I feel like that would be a knee-jerk reaction. He's the guy that happens to be there at the time. Okay, let's just put the title on him without any planning of what to do after that. And I'm worrying that the fans are going to consider Hobbs' run a sham or a schmaz or uneventful or underwhelming or anything like that, because they're just thrusting him into it when there was no build to this. It's not like he's been bubbling, gaining wins, and fans have been clamoring for him, and now his time is to pull the trigger. It's almost like the opposite of that. Everybody loves Hobbs, but he'd be literally showing up to the building that day. Hey, you're going to win the title tonight. Holy crap. So I'd much rather see Hobbs gain momentum and then win the championship. My only hope was that Hobbs not winning the title on Wednesday, which I was certain he was not going to, I was just hoping they wouldn't do it in a way that would harm Hobbs at all. And they didn't. And I said before that match, they got to keep him strong. And that's exactly what they did. He lost when he passed out to Jon Moxley's choke, but not before he kicked out of an assload of stuff. And he is a big, menacing, huge powerhouse, literally. And I love everything about Hobbs. And one thing I didn't want to see him do is fall victim to the same bullshit everybody else falls victim to with the Death Riders. So AEW did a good job booking that main event. For the fans that are disappointed that Hobbs didn't win, probably it's for the best, to be honest. I don't know if I trust AEW to make a knee-jerk booking decision right out of the blue and then being able to follow through with it. I don't trust them to have that ability. And I feel like Hobbs would be better served to win the championship after, you know, he's stringing up some momentum, stringing up some wins, having his issue with Mox, and then all of the fans are just Hobbs, 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 you know, build him and then do it. But I was worried that they were going to fuck over Hobbs in some way and make him look bad or make him look like a bitch, and they did not. So that pleased me. And he is going to be in action tonight in that 12-man tag. And on Wednesday, that was another reason that I pointed to as to why he's probably not going to win the championship, is because he's in that 12-man tag. If Hobbs is going to beat Moxley in the upset of the year, the next time I want to see that man on television is during his victory promo, not in a 12-man tag on fucking Collision that's taped the next day. So Hobbs' first appearance after winning the championship would have been in a taped show on a 12-man tag. No. So that's why I was like, no, he's not going to win the championship tonight. So I am happy that how AEW booked that match. They booked it right. Hobbs looked like a mega stud, and he didn't even get pinned or tapped out. He passed out. So that's about as strong as you can really protect someone there. And I was pleased with that. And I'm hoping that the fans don't forget about their feelings from Wednesday night. Keep tweeting Tony Khan. Keep tagging him. Be very, very vocal on social media about wanting Hobbs to be pushed if he's going to be one of their new young top stars that's essentially homegrown. I would absolutely invest everything I could in Hobbs if I'm Tony Khan. We'll see if he's smart enough to do that. I doubt that he is. Here's what we have on tap for Collision tonight. We got that big 12-man tag that features Powerhouse Hobbs that Tony Khan got absolutely ratioed for last week when he posted the match graphic. We also have Kazuchika Okada against Tomohiro Ishii, and I believe the title is on the line, right? Julia Hart is going to be taking on Harley Cameron. We've got Undisputed Kingdom taking on Shane Taylor Promotions. Lance Archer and Brian Cage are taking on Top Flight. Dustin Rhodes is in action. We will hear from Tony Storm, and we will get Hangman Page versus Christopher Daniels in a Texas death match. And reports are tonight, Daniels will be calling it a career, and this will be his final match. I'll be checking that one out tonight for sure when I get home. And then, of course, TNA Genesis tomorrow. We've got Tessa Blanchard versus Jordan Grace and Joe Hendry versus Nick Nemeth. Those are the two big ones set for Genesis tomorrow, which will be running head-to-head with our own watch-along here of Genesis 2006 that we're going to be watching on YouTube. So make sure you join us for that. And I have, believe it or not, actually reached the end of my notes. This is going to be a little bit shorter than a 2-hour podcast this week because I do have to head to work. But now I've got some time to answer some questions if you guys have any for me. Speaking of Hobbs, where the hell is Wardlow? Good question. Good question. Hopefully on his way to WWE one day. All right, let me scroll to the top here, make sure I can get all of these supers. Good to see Spectre back in here, 28-month member. What's up, dude? Hey, Greg, hope all is good. I start a new job on Monday after 3 months out of work. Can't wait. Hope you're enjoying wrestling. I might give Rumble another chance if it's on Netflix for free. Rumble will not be on Netflix for free, but it will be on Peacock for free. So you got to get Peacock if you want to watch that. I'm glad you're back. Sorry you were out for 3 months, but I'm glad you're starting a new job. Good luck with that. New jobs can be scary. If anybody hasn't hit that thumbs up button yet, by the way, do you mind doing that for me? Thank you so much. Also, make sure you're subscribed. Chris Ludek, what's up, dude? Appreciate the $5. I agree. AEW needs Scott D'Amore to be the head booker. For some reason, I thought WWE had already signed him, but he's in AEW. Yeah, he got fired from TNA. I thought WWE would scoop him up, but apparently they did not. So he could be heading to AEW. Man, he would be valuable there. My God, they need something. They need something. The more minds over there, the more smart people, the better. So I hope that they maybe bring him on in some role. 2 more from Chris. Poor planning, poor advertising, poor ratings equals AEW. Yes, sometimes it does, and that'll probably be the case for Grand Slam. Unfortunately, and that's unfortunate for the fans attending Grand Slam in Brisbane, because it's going to be a packed house, probably going to be a fun show, and I think AEW could have done better with that one. Ryan Adams has got 5 more for us. Storm loses a Grand Slam, but returns to timeless Tony Storm at Revolution, since that's in Los Angeles. That's a good idea. You know, I went online just, I think it was yesterday or day before, because I know Dynamite's coming up here to Oceanside, which is about a 20-minute drive for me, in February. So I went online to pick up tickets, and I see no tickets available. And I'm like, what the hell? Is this sold out? No, the tickets haven't gone on sale yet. So I don't even know when they're going to go on sale, but they better get on it, because the show's like in a month. I guess that's about normal, though, right? They just released tickets about a month earlier. I would have had them released already. Try to sell them for as long as you can. But anyway, I think I'm going to head to the Dynamite in Oceanside, which I think is like in a month. Might be the week before. Actually, I think it's the go home. It is. It's the go home. It's the go home Dynamite to Revolution. So I got to decide, Zane, if I'm going to go to both or I'm going to go to one. But yeah, that's probably the show that it is, because I think it's the 26th or something. So something like that. But anyway, I will be there in February. If any of y'all live in the Oceanside area, get your ass down here. We'll go together. Jacob Fatu should be the new tribal chief with Zilla Fatu joining. What's Zilla Fatu? Isn't that website that you look up housing prices on? Keith Lee coming back would be nice. Yeah, the Rumble is on Peacock. That's one thing that I do think is confusing some fans with WWE Raw going to Netflix. It's just for Raw. Just Raw. Not all the pay-per-views and not all the other shit. All that still is on Peacock. So that's what sucks about WWE, is they're starting to spread out their shit now to multiple streaming platforms, and you don't have that one-stop shop. But the pay-per-views are still on Peacock for at least a couple of more years, I believe, until that deal comes up. Yeah, that stupid match tonight, the Learning Tree teaming up with the Death Riders. The Death Riders shouldn't be teaming with anybody, much less Jericho and his cronies. Reading some more. Charlotte doesn't have to earn a title shot. She has a permanent Money in the Bank contract. Yeah, she used to, but I just don't think it's going to be the same for her. You know, and that's the thing. Fans need to be able to separate the difference between winning a match and winning all the time. So if she wins a championship again, that's not weird. She's a decorated Hall of Fame, first balloter, cornerstone megastar of the WWE's women's division. She's always going to be in line for a shot. If she wins one after having a 2-year drought, it doesn't mean she's being shoved down her throats. It just means she won a title again. That's it. So I think the fans, once they get that idea in their head and that narrative going, they don't let up on it. And Charlotte, WrestleMania 39, lost to Rhea Ripley, and then she got hurt. She's been out for a year. So if she comes back and wins a title this year, you know, if she comes back and wins it on her first night or something, then, you know, I kind of understand. But I think we shouldn't be worrying about that anymore. You know, like I just wouldn't worry about Charlotte's influence backstage and stuff. I just don't feel like that is really a factor. I don't think she's back there actively stepping on throats. It's not reality. It's what the fans want the reality to be, but I don't think it's the real reality. Charlotte in the bank. Yeah, and there was definitely a time where it felt like that. Every time she popped up, Charlotte absolutely was rolled up in a ball and crammed down our fucking throats as hard as they could. That absolutely happened. I'm just saying, I don't think it's going to happen now. We're not going to have a repeat of that where it's Charlotte, 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 all the time, all Charlotte. Nothing but Charlotte, nonstop, total nonstop Charlotte. It's not going to be that. The roster's huge. There are now 6 championship belts in the women's division. 2 worlds, IC, US, tag. 6. So statistically, it's going to be very likely that Charlotte is going to have a belt around her waist because 20% of the women on the roster will be champions at one time. So that's why I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think if she, God, we could see this. I would like to see Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton would probably be cool, but I would like to see like Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky and Tiffany Stratton maybe versus somebody else. And then have Becky and Charlotte wrestle for the IC in the US. It could be Charlotte and Chelsea and Becky and Lyra. And they could both win. Becky and Charlotte are now mid-card champions in the WWE, while Ripley and Io and Tiffy and I don't know who else. Who else is kind of like on the cusp of moving on to that next level in the women's division? Somebody like that. And keep Becky and Charlotte in matches, but just not world title matches. I think it might be fun if Becky and Charlotte won the tag titles together. Do you think they've made up yet? What do you think the story is there? You think there's still just some bad feelings? They don't talk much. They probably don't have too much communication, but they've worked together and they've had interactions and they've even spoken about their friendship breakup on various podcasts. Like, what do you think the real story is there? Certainly over the holidays, birthdays, kids being born and shit, there's got to be some friendly text messages back and forth between the two, you would think, right? I sincerely doubt these women hate each other's guts, but there definitely has been some animosity and things like that backstage. So if they were able to put all that together and maybe they come in together and they beat Jade and Bianca for the championships, I don't know. Just an idea. Rodrigo, am I aware that Trump and Hogan are friends? No, totally unaware of that. I don't know where you came up with that. Is Hogan wearing t-shirts that have Trump on it or something? Did he go to like the Republican convention, or is he on Fox News all the time talking about how much he loves him? Where did you get this wild information, Rodrigo? Yes, of course I know that. I know the sky's blue too. Yeah, Chelsea and Charlotte could be interesting. Oh, yeah, the Laurel Van Ness and the gimmick stealing and all of that. Well, I'm glad that didn't work out because I like Hot Mess a lot better. Yeah, could be some history there. That's something they could bring up in promos that a fraction of the audience would get or understand the reference to. But yeah, that would be interesting because I feel like Chelsea's over. You know, even though she's a heel, like they might switch her to babyface. Yeah, Max, you think Lyra would beat Becky, but I think Lyra already beat Becky, right? Didn't she beat her for the NXT Championship? So I think Lyra's got this one coming back. And yes, Ryan, thank you for that. Lindsay Dorado returned to NXT last night, so he's back. Appreciate that, $2. And Colin Wright, I missed your super chat about Graves. I did? Let me find it. Super chats can be missed sometimes. I'm scrolling. There. Nope, that's not you. Still looking for you. How far back was it? Oh, I missed a couple. Tom Talks Rubbish. Our friend, my boy. I didn't see you. I didn't even see you chime in earlier. Tom, you're probably not still here. If you're gone, or if you are still here, I love you. If you're gone, I love you anyway. Good to see you here, Tom, as always. And there's Colin's super chat from earlier. Sorry I missed that, man. Waiting for Corey to do a Joey Styles. I'm not good enough to call Backlash. Oh, my God. He mocked God. Oh, man, that Joey Styles shoot promo was tremendous. Max Pokebro, I agree. Pat is just bigger than Graves. That's the business. Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Graves should understand. He knows the industry. And he's watched a lot of his peers and his friends on the roster take back seats to celebrities all the time. So this is not uncommon. Not uncommon at all. Right on. Okay, cool. I think we got to all of the super chats and I did not miss anything, which is good. And I think that's going to be a wrap for today. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out for this quick 90-minute podcast. Don't forget, we're going to be here tomorrow night. Lots going on. We're going to watch TNA Genesis 2006. We're going to have the football game on the TV, and we're going to be monitoring 2025's TNA Genesis, which is going to be going on simultaneously. So we're going head-to-head with football and TNA Genesis while we watch TNA Genesis. You might want to write that down because it could get confusing. You guys have a great, great rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much for being here, and I will catch you tomorrow night for Genesis. Peace.